Hey Raganath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raganath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleep In Saturdays Q&A Day. And let me tell you how much I slept in today, Kastuba. I woke up at
1:30.
2:50 a.m.
Okay.
Not out of jet lag, just because my son chose for a birthday present to go to Florida, hang with his Krishna friends. And so I put him on a plane at Bradley and Hartford, and he flew down there to hang out with the Krishna kids. He's having a sweet 16 down in Alachua this week. And then my daughter, I'm driving to Newark today. She's going to Laguna to hang out with her Krishna boyfriend. I'm feeling good.
You have to go down there later today. You're driving her.
I'm driving. I've been doing a lot of driving today. And you know what I'm not doing? I'm not doing my steps as much as I want to do. It's just like, first of all, it's freezing out. I know you're in Mayapur, like pouring Ganges water over your head right now. It was like spring yesterday, 58 degrees. Let's play volleyball. And then all of a sudden the temperatures plummeted like a science fiction movie. They plummeted to it's freezing out with this wind blowing. And now it's 19 degrees right now. Right now. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, we're just trying to I'm trying to cope with this change. Mara is walking around in her full outfit. I'm walking around in my full winter outfit like I'm outside. And we're just trying to cope.
Tolerate the changing of the winter and the summer seasons. Right?
I'm tolerating, but I'm not getting my steps in as much. I was just
go out
walking.
there and bundle up and get your steps.
Yeah, it's easier for you to say while you're walking around in a bikini bottom. It's hot. It's freezing here.
All right. Okay, Raghunath. Enough about the weather. Let's get on with the show here. Mara, any announcements today?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today at 9:30 and 12:30. We have a Shloka memorization group meeting with Nityananda Chandra today at 10 a.m.
That's the second canto, second chapter, the first canto of Bhagavatam they're doing still, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Great stuff.
And then tomorrow is the Urban Devi meeting through the Bhakti Center at 11 a.m.
All right.
All right. That's a great name, isn't it?
And tomorrow the show is going to be at 8 o'clock again. Raghunath's going to do a special interview.
Special secret interview tomorrow. Kastuba's getting the day off. He's got to meander around the banks of the Ganga.
Love it.
You take care of yourself. You know
they got this great little Ganga temple right there by the bathing ghat now.
I saw that last time I was there. They had that.
Oh, it's great. You go in there, you bow down to Ganga, you circumambulate. The great pujaris there, really sweet people.
You know what? Next year I'm going to Mayapur.
All right, let's do it.
I'm in. All right, my brother.
All right, so we got Q&A today, right?
Yeah, let's go. We got some good questions. Okay. So if you're new to the show, if you're listening to this on Facebook, welcome. This is our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam's of all the teachings of the East, it is like the essential path, the path of devotion, the path of loving devotion. And it's sort of to wake up the soul's connection with source. It's not a pearl of wisdom. It is the thread that ties pearls of wisdom together into making a beautiful pearl necklace. It ties, you'll understand. I understand Christianity better as a devotee of Krishna. And I find like it can live harmoniously. I feel like I can understand Buddhism. I feel like I can understand these things and how they all fit together. It's not an exclusive. It's a very inclusive understanding of spirit and how we can move forward on a spiritual life. And not only that, but how to add spiritual life, ancient teachings to a very modern world that's progressing constantly, oftentimes not necessarily for with our best interest in mind, but how to apply this stuff. So on Saturdays, we do a Q&A day, and on Sundays, we do an interview day. And it's, we start a little early in the morning. If you want to get on live, we have a whole group that comes live on Zoom every day. And then we upload it, and we get like 12,000 people a day. But on Zoom, it's a nice.
Don't keep exaggerating. You're going too far.
Hey, you know what?
How did it get up to 12?
It gets up to 12, man.
Rarely.
Check
Very
the
rarely.
numbers. Check the numbers. And then there's Facebook. That's another couple thousand. Forget it.
All right.
You got to see the future, and the future comes.
Okay.
So anyway,
well, let's.
If you want, I just want to
question.
say, if you want to get on, if you want to get into our little private family here, free of charge, we just ask for a lifelong commitment. Okay, that's all. And so you have to email Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Lovely Mara will send you the codes to get in our Zoom call. Please poke your index finger, put a little bit of blood on your email, and then send that. And then you'll be blood brothers with us. You'll get the secret codes, and you can join us here, where we write each other secret messages on Zoom.
If you have a question that you want to send in, you write into wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
Which is basically the same email, but no blood required for that.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready, Raghunath? Here comes a question. This is coming from someone whose name we've been mispronouncing for a long time now.
Okay.
Adrian.
Adrian.
I hope I got it right now. Adrian. Okay. That's what Adrian writes. It's interesting. You got to listen carefully now.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian writes, now, I don't know if Adrian is a he or she. I think we've been getting that wrong too. You know,
we got the pronunciation at least. We'll work on gender later.
Okay. I am writing as a loving, I'm sorry, what am I saying? I am writing as a loving, longtime listener and spiritual seeker. I was born into the Catholic faith, but as a kid, I was never moved by it.
Mm-hmm.
As myself and my two siblings got older, we stopped going to Mass on a regular basis. Then, as I started to become more of my own person, I started to learn more of some of the radical Catholics.
I didn't even know the word.
And how some
Catholics.
Aspects of the church are service oriented. I think that means like I know, like, you know, this kind of like a communists, you know, Catholics and stuff like that down in South America. Maybe that's what that's talking about, you know.
Okay. You know what a radical Catholic is? Put it on the board, please, consumers.
That's my guess, because he or she is saying it's like
Christ was pretty radical.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe
Okay, this is about the time where I was getting into punk rock, vegetarianism, radical politics, and also atheism.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I appreciated the service aspects of the church, but I really started to question their conception of a personal God.
Mm-hmm.
And I would often lay in bed at night and staring at the shadows play on the ceiling, thinking there might be an answer. It got to the point where I would try to convince myself that I saw a silhouette of Jesus' head with the crown of thorns. I was desperate, and I'm desperate now, I know. I eventually decided that my quest was ridiculous, and there's nothing higher than us on the terrestrial plane, except maybe aliens. I spent almost 20 years believing in nothing, practically speaking. But I've turned around again. Listening to this podcast has really helped me reinterpret reality. However, I'm trying to redesign my freshly cleaned slate. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's like they understand that our mind gets programmed in certain ways. It's, you know, and it's the mind is speaking to us with its programming, you know, from external sources and stuff. Coming fresh from an atheistic point of view, I am desperate. I've been kicked off my pedestal and looking for the grace of Krishna. It's simple to say that I have it every time I wake up or with every tribulation, but it's different to actually believe it. I try to chant Mahamantra. I've always felt its power in its vibrations. It always makes me feel such joy, no matter what mood I was in. But I am brought to tears when I just cannot fathom the conception of Krishna and the demigods. It doesn't help that I struggle with a mild form of OCD, and my brain is constantly trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong. It's terrible struggling, not knowing what to believe. I live outside of Boston, and I have considered going to the temple, but it makes me nervous, and I will possibly offend anyone and Krishna. I have no association other than my daily sangha of listening to the podcast. Have you any advice for a recovering atheist?
Hi, I'm Raganath, and I'm a recovering atheist. Hi, Raganath. Okay, go on. That was my atheism recovery imitation.
Thank you. You have any thoughts about that, Raganath?
Oh, are you going to finish more?
Well, there's another part of the. I'll go ahead and read it. Then.
Okay.
But that was the major part of the question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Let's deal with this first.
I like how he's constantly like struggling. He gets to a certain point. I believe this, and then I'm going to change that up. Like there's no higher power, but then there is a higher power. The aliens are higher. It's interesting because that whole thing is a very common thing. The whole idea of there's no higher power. How could there be a higher power? Are you kidding? The wind is taking out houses. That's a higher power. The sun is roasting people in the desert, right? Of course, there's higher energies than us. Of course,
we're talking about a personal God.
You get us all together on a wrestling mat, and there'll be one person standing who's throwing everybody out of the circle. Of course, there's higher powers. There's higher powers within our 6th grade, gym class. So there's higher beings. There's higher energies. There's higher forces. There's higher people in politics and controllers of the nation. Of course, there's higher powers. And he said the ultimate truth, there's aliens, and they pretty much are our masters. But going on.
What are you talking about? This person is asking, is God a person?
Okay, so he's asking what to do about a recovering atheist.
Yeah, well, they're struggling with this idea. They want to believe in a personal God, but it's hard for them.
Okay, well, we have a really simple idea: is what are we according to science? We're nothing. We're just a bunch of chemicals on a periodic table, right? If I actually strip apart Kastuba, chop them up in a food processor, you're just a bunch of elements. Just like you put a frog in this is horrible. You chop up a frog. I don't want to think about this. How about chop up a plant? I'm going somewhere with this. You chop up a plant. My idea is that all we are is a bunch of elements on a periodic table. But no, we're actually not that. Because if you were to do that, we'd be no different than, a piece of wood or a table that I'm sitting at or my computer. They're just elements like my body is. But we are elements that are conscious of itself. There is beingness underneath this meat puppet that I'm walking around in. There is a beingness. There's a difference between a live Raganath and a dead Raganath, right? The live Raganath is blinking and winking and tasting and hearing. There's a dead Raganath right here. Why isn't the dead Raganath tasting? The tongue is there. The eyes are there. Why isn't the dead Raganath seeing? Why isn't the dead Raganath hearing?
So you're talking about consciousness.
So there's a being inhabiting matter. There's a higher consciousness within matter. And that beingness is a person. And no one likes to be depersonalized and being thought of as like a girl in high school, like she's got a nice body. Oh, you're just treating me like a body. No one likes to be marginalized into a body. So nice legs, nice abs, nice breasts, nice lips, nice genital, whatever. No one wants to be marginalized into a thing. I know you're sitting in Mayapur looking at me like, oh, he's so off.
What happened on the flight over there?
For 2 days, he's losing it. Listen to me here. There's a point here. But we have a body. We're not a body. We are beings. There's personhood beyond the matter. And when we can start to see personhood beyond the human person and see there's a plant person, I'd say the next step would be animal personhood. There's personhood within animals. There's uniqueness. And the Christians, when they talk about a soul, it's an enigma. It's like a ghostly being within. No, it's an animating force that has personhood. That's giving you, it's what we're falling in love. I'm looking at Kylie and Brian. They're in love with each other. They're a beautiful couple, but they're in love. It's not dependent on looks or, right? He would love her if she was disfigured, because he loves her beingness. And so anyway, there's beingness in pets and animals as you get to know them, right? Like we have a dog we love. But, you know, all the animals that are, when we take the beingness out of animals and we look at them as commodities, oh, there's no beingness in this pig or this chicken or this cow that we kill. You actually have to take away their beingness mentally so you can kill them. Once a person gets a little enlightened, they realize there's beingness in these animals, right? There's beingness in plants.
Okay.
And there's beingness in the earth itself. So I think part of our personal mental evolution is to at least understand on a theoretical level, I'm not a clump of earth, even though that's what I appear to be under a microscope. There's a beingness behind the Ragana. And I want you to treat me like a being. I want to be loved like a being. I don't want to be treated as a shell. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but where does it have to do with the question? This person is struggling to believe in a personal God. So you
so that personal God, meaning I'm a person, and therefore our source also must be complete.
The cause has to be greater than the effect.
Yeah, that must be complete. It has to be able to have also the beingness as well. And so therefore God is also manifest in both ways. An unbeingness, supreme spirit, the Brahman, and also the personal being. A lot of times people get so burnt out with traditional Abrahamic religions that they go, you know what, the whole personal God thing, I just like God to be spirit. I like spirit. And they almost like see that as the next level.
Okay.
Level.
Now I think what I'm taking from what you're saying is, if we look around, we'll see wherever there's life, it means that there's a conscious person within that body.
Sure.
And this universe is also alive, which means that there's a conscious person that's animating the universe, whose consciousness is spreading throughout the universe. That's God, right? Like the soul of the universe, right? And any conscious being is a person, right? It's like they feel, right?
Sure.
When we
even
feel
the aliens,
that's a person. So you know, I think you just kind of got somewhere when you just said, like, people, they sort of get a feeling like enough of that. We get fed this message, and it's actually a total bluff, that it's irrational to conceive of a personal God. Actually, it's totally rational. It makes perfect sense, right? That if there's a source from which I come from, that source has everything that I have. And that includes consciousness and personality and individuality and so on. You know, that makes perfect sense. We shouldn't allow ourselves to be intimidated, or we should be able to examine our own psychology and recognize that there are things that there are reasons that make it difficult for me to embrace the idea of a personal God. And those are not necessarily rational thoughts at all. Those are emotional thoughts. Those are thoughts that are coming from being hurt. Those are thoughts that are coming from a sense of insecurity in dealing with other persons. So it's enough of a hassle to deal with all other kind of persons in this world. What to speak of, there's a supreme person, right? Now I don't want to have to believe in that, right? And from that point, I'll go and I'll rationalize it in so many ways, you know, science or pseudoscience, you know. I'll use weak argument. Some of these arguments are so weak, it's ridiculous. Like,
it's not a maha leap of faith what we're talking about. You know, it's a very reasonable
conclusion. Yeah. My point is, the other conclusion is actually not rational. It's emotional. right?
Right.
Even if it's coming from like powerful scientific brains, it doesn't mean that that person with that powerful scientific brain doesn't have all kind of emotional issues, right? Like
Right.
people at MIT or NASA or whatever,
Right.
just because like they've got degrees and so on doesn't mean that they don't have emotional issues, and those very emotional issues may have been what drew them to those fields in the first place.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just go to normal people, particularly let's say like like cultures that are very agricultural, say, where people actually live in nature, right? And they're not boxed up in laboratories or boxed up in cubicles and glass buildings, and
Yeah.
people always believe in God. It just makes perfect sense. It's the most rational type of thought, when you plant a seed in the ground and you watch it grow and you observe the seasons and you observe it's obvious that there's a person behind it, that there's a designer behind it, that there's an intelligence behind it, that there's a beautiful person behind it, right?
Right.
It, it, it
Sometimes when you hear about a personal God, though, they can get turned off because they feel like this person has some restrictions they're putting on me. Isn't God just energy? Why should there be rules?
Great point.
The idea is like, of course, there's rules to get into the White House. There's certain rules you got to follow to get into the White House. That's reasonable, and and those rules are to like enhance the safety of everyone, that you're not going to come in there with a sawed-off shotgun, right? So maybe I can see how religion has just appeared as a bunch of rules to take away my freedom and to limit my real joy, which is inherent in my senses. And it's not that. I will say Krishna consciousness was the first time it was really broken down and explained to me about the limits of pleasure we can even have through the sensual experience, and to really meditate upon that. And when I thought about that, I was like, I understand. They're not trying to take away my fun. They're trying to give me a deeper
Open it
kind of
up.
joy here.
Yeah. Okay, so we need to understand what yoga is really all about. That, it involves self-discipline, but it's self-discipline that frees you from the programming of the mind so that you can actually experience something deeply spiritual. And when you experience it, you feel the presence of God in a very personal way.
Yeah.
That's teachings of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yeah.
All
It's
right.
crazy philosophy, too. Embrace the sensual experience. Give me a break. Right?
Okay.
It's like, give me a break. That's like, that is like the threshold to addiction. Embrace that there. Anything that feels good, you just do it. Talk to somebody in recovery, at any of the recovery groups, about that. And talk about embracing the sensual experience.
Okay. All right, Raghunath. I want you to embrace another question.
I will.
Okay. This is coming from our friend, my friend, and yours. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harshal Gore from the
Mr.
UK.
Harshal Gore is in the house. He probably
Okay.
gets a trophy for the most questions asked.
Well, he says, my
message
question
board.
for this week, and this one's for you, Raghunath. You ready?
Hit me.
How can we bring up teenage kids who are more empathetic, understanding, and caring? What does empathetic mean?
They're willing to shut up and understand how you're feeling. They put.
Okay, well, I don't know if it includes necessarily the shutting up.
Well, empathetic means you're considering the other person's feelings.
The ability to
above-
understand
yeah,
another person's
yeah, to be
feelings.
able to
Yes.
understand it, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, how can we bring up teenage kids who are more empathetic, understanding, and caring? I've noticed with my kids, they're more into their world rather than thinking about what's going on around them. For example, parents and family. I'm sure social media has a major part to play. Not to compare, but I will compare now. Not to compare, but here I'm going to go and compare. Not to compare, but I will. When I was growing up, I remember waiting for my dad coming back from work. I would always ask my parents how they are. There was a different level of empathy and understanding, maybe because we had no money and life was tough and simple. He's an East Ender, right?
Yeah.
A Londoner, Cockney.
But it's also, if you West, we've grown up with parents that have sort of struggled generally, and they sort of like made it, and they've made our lives very easy. Like,
All right.
my father by the time I was my age, my father, yeah.
Let's get this question out.
Okay.
Is this to do with social media, or do we have too much money, or are we all just bad parents? I would like.
We're all
I would
bad
like
parents. We know
I would
that.
like to get your Krishna conscious view on this topic. Go, Raghu. Go.
How do you get kids to be more empathetic? You know what I noticed in India this time? This has
Yeah.
something to do with it. I'm not going off on a tangent. Like a lot of these, and I don't know if this is true in all of India. If you're from India, forgive me if there's a massive generalization, but sometimes in these villages, like in Vrindavan, I've been to people's houses and there's like a bed, and it's almost like a family bed. You know what I mean? Where you got like 4 people sleeping in a bed and 3 people sleeping in a bed, or 2 people. And it's sort of like there's an intimacy that you share with your kids. And I don't know if it's India or if it's simple village life or something, but there's an intimacy that you share with your children, with other family members, and you sort of like to be with each other. We've created, and I will say social media is a big part of this, an isolation effect. Whereas even when I was growing up, we'd sit around the TV and we'd sit there as a family every night together. That's what we did. Now, because there's so many different options and there's not just one piece of crap General Electric black and white TV with 3 channels. Now there's like multiple channels, multiple devices. Every kid wants to watch their own movie in their own space. And so we've almost created, these isolation chambers. As a matter of fact, I remember the first time text messages were hitting America, because text messaging got big in Europe first. But I remember being with a friend who's very sort of cool and progressive and hip, and we were eating lunch, and there was 3 of us having lunch, and he and the other guy were text messaging. And this is before I even text messaged. And I was thinking, this is weird. We're all sitting together, and these guys are texting other people. We're sitting together. Now that's a super common thing where you can text. We're all off in our own private world, even though we're physically next to each other. So I think part of the way culture is shifting is like that. You could be in multiple conversations going on at once. I do it now. I do it with you. You're talking to me, and
I've noticed.
I have a chat board, or someone's texting me and I'm distracted, and it's creating a vrittis out of control. The vrittis are the stuff in the mind that gets stirred up in material engagement. So vrittis are out of control, and we think like, yeah, no, I'm multitasking, getting stuff done. We're getting nothing done.
Okay, hold it. So, Raghunath, yeah,
Okay.
Speaking of focus, I want to make sure we're focused on the question. So are you saying that it's not the kid's fault, that they're just getting brought up in an era where they're going to have distracted
We're getting
minds?
caught up in a riptide. We're getting caught up in a riptide that's almost a little out of control, as riptides are. There is hope. And to really change anybody in this world, we put the microscope on ourselves. How can I change? We want to be the example. The kids don't follow your instructions. They follow your example more. It weighs heavier. Your lifestyle weighs heavy on a child, whether they check the box, like I want to be like you, they see something in you, and that sort of affects them in a deeper way. We teach by example.
So is there some example that Harshal should be showing his kids that's going to make them change?
Yeah, well, you could set up family rituals, like we're going to eat together. We're going to,
and when we eat, we're going to put the phones away.
I don't know Harshal's situation. His kids are older, but from childhood, you could set up sort of like, these are our family rituals. These are our evening rituals. This is our morning rituals.
Let's hear, what are the rituals? What kind of rituals?
Well, it depends. It depends on where the kids. Some people are getting into Krishna consciousness, so their kids are already teenagers, so they've already developed their own rituals.
Well, let's assume they aren't. Let's say we start from scratch. What kind of rituals?
If they say they aren't, I pull a page family bhakti, and you get together and you sing with your kids in the evening. It's not so weird for me to tell my kids, okay, we're gonna have kirtan now before dinner or after dinner. It's a very normal thing because they sort of grew up with that. You know, it's not that it's that easy. I still got Tarun running around. I gotta reel that kid in. You know, but it's part of the regular rituals. You add spirit to the family dynamic too, especially if you're the head of household. You add it to the family dynamic. Although some of you guys have done it with your own parents. You're the kid and you've added it to your parents' life. There's many people have done that too. But really that becomes, it's going to be very, very unique and individualistic. It could be as simple as, hey, before we eat, We're going to say some gratitudes. We're going to say some prayers. I'm grateful. This is what I've got going on that I'm very grateful for in my life. This is why I'm grateful for you guys in my life. And you go around the table. This is what we appreciate about you. This is what I appreciate about you. This is what I appreciate about you. What a change of dynamic than harboring resentment for a sibling or a parent or a brother. We would do that. Also, that's a great habit.
Okay, so you're recommending family rituals.
Family rituals, and it's almost like if you want to pull a tree out of the ground, it's easier to pull it and replant it somewhere else if it's very small. But if this thing has been growing and developing roots in bad habits, it's a lot harder. So the tree gets bigger. It's hard to change that tree. So the best we can do is really work on ourselves, and
and maybe the kids when they have the kids of their own, they'll come around, right?
That, and sometimes kids do change later in life. Like, yeah, Dad's doing this cool, or Mom's doing this cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna check that out.
What about like heavy punishments, grounding them every time they do something wrong?
I don't know.
Okay, I was just throwing that out. I'm not suggesting. Okay, we didn't get an enthusiastic response.
No, my father was, I was 6 out of 7 kids. My parents were really strict with my older kids. I think older siblings, and they came to me. They were like, whatever, But they were like lovingly detached. I was just telling my son today, when I was 14, my father said, I got a lot of rules in this house. Anytime you want to like do your own thing and break those rules, you can, but you're on your own. Get out of the house. You're on your own. You just get out of the house. And he didn't say it like in a threatening way. He just said, there's rules, and you want to play by the rules here. There's the rules. Okay. And then if you want, you can be mature. You can be mature when you're 14 years old, but you just got to play by those. Because then you get the full responsibility for your actions. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
Okay. Next question. Why don't you read it?
The Pious Golfer, a.k.a. Rich Mancuso from Manhattan. Hi, friends. Mara, Raganath, and Kostuba. Rich is a good longtime listener. Traveled with us, been up to the farm. It's been wonderful to hear all about your experiences in India. I was upset, though, to learn about Super Soul Farm troubles. Well, we'll see. We got people working on it. Another Wisdom of the Sages friend reached out and was worried as well. Raganath, we're all wishing you divine support. Thank you.
There you go. We want to hang on to Super Soul. We're working on it, right?
We're working on it. We got a plan. We're trying Krishna's plan. Raghu's response, Krishna has a plan, is wonderful. And I've used it as one of my daily affirmations. I do too. Krishna has a plan. Krishna has a plan. Sweet baby Krishna has a plan. That is one of my mantras. I trust Krishna has a plan, and I'll be taken care of. But it did bring up a part of the Bhagavad Gita in my mind that needs a bit of clarity. Arjuna is told by Krishna that he can make his choice to fight or not. He has all the information Krishna wanted to impart to him. But the Kauravas are dead already, right? Krishna had a plan in the Bhagavad Gita that everybody on the other side is dead. But now you have to see, do you want to step up and serve me? So Krishna has already declared they're dead. It doesn't matter what Arjuna does. The result will be the result. So in the case of the Super Soul and Raghunath, when you say Krishna has a plan, does that mean the outcome only and the action is for us to decide? I love you, all three of you. You're all in my heart daily, and I thank you for your service. Ooh.
That's a great question.
A great question.
Yeah.
I look at, you want me to go with this, or want
you seem inspired?
Well, only because I really feel this thing day to day. And truthfully, since we've had Super Soul, it's been a project, and it's a labor of love, because I don't need to live on a big property. I'm a pretty simple dude. But it does enhance a lot of other people's spiritual life, and it enhances my children's spiritual life, because we have kirtan here and programs here. And, I love doing what I do. But day to day, there can be shifting. And if my mood on a regular basis is what you want, Krishna, thy will be done, Krishna. I want to serve you, but you might have a better agenda than my agenda. And I'm going to go with your agenda. I've been trying to manipulate my experience, my work in this world, people in this world to get my needs met and my agenda met. I'm over it. What are your needs? What would you like from me? And then that is not just a light switch. Now I'm Krishna's. It is like a moment to moment choice. Like I'm going to relinquish my control. I'm not going to lay over and play dead. I'm going to work for it, but I'm going to understand Krishna's got a bigger plan. And there's whispers and cues you get that are divine that lead you. Go right now. Now it's time to go right. It's very obvious. Now it's time to go left. Now it's time to make a U-turn. So there is clues there sent by divinity. I do believe in that, and I've experienced that. But the ultimate, and I do think that Krishna is actually, according to my desires and how shut down I am or how open I am, he can actually even change that result, whether the farm is going to go or the farm is going to stay, right? He can actually change that as well. But he wants to, but if my sincere prayer is, whatever I need to evolve, Krishna, you give me that. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want from me, you give me that. Then I believe that it's all in God's hands. And another thing is, you'll trust that you'll be taken care of. You know, it's like one of those like in the workplace exercises, you know, those community building exercises where you're dropping backwards and someone's just got you, or 10 people got you. Krishna's got us, and he's got a plan, and it's hard to see the plan when you're in the thick of it. If you want to worry about your needs and your agenda getting met, you can sit there in a pool of worry. It's not going to make the results change that much anyway. And it's going to just like all the red flags of your lack of trust are going to go off. And sometimes that does happen. But our deepest mantra and affirmation is Krishna has a plan for me. And Krishna is actually benevolent. He's actually our best friend. And therefore, it's going to work out exactly what I need. And it may not necessarily be what I want, but it might be exactly what I need. Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Sure.
It's Krishna magic stuff. Yeah. You want to embellish on that at all?
Well, I have my own thoughts about it. And that is that Rich is using an example from the Bhagavad Gita. It's an interesting example. And the Bhagavad Gita, of course, is set within the Mahabharata, right? The much larger work, which it's a small part of. And the Mahabharata begins with Mother Earth approaching with other devas, with the other gods and goddesses, approaching Lord Vishnu, right? Remember that?
Well, the 10th canto does.
No, this happens in Mahabharata as well.
In the Mahabharata?
Well, yeah,
and that's how long farther you go back.
And the point is that the whole point is that she's suffering. She's suffering from the weight of horrible rulers. I can't take it anymore. And Lord Vishnu grants assurance to the earth and all the devas that don't worry, all these rulers will be wiped out and you'll be free of it. So Krishna has a plan, right? Like, I'm going to take care of you, right? And a lot of the Puranas and in these ancient texts talk about Krishna coming back and appearing in different ways, in different forms, to reestablish stability, like universal stability, right? And we see that in so many different ways. So in this particular instance with Arjuna, he's telling Arjuna, this battle is going to take place, and these rulers are going to die. This is all part of this plan that goes way, way back, to relieve Mother Earth. It's going to happen. Now you can either be part of that or not be part of that. That's up to you. But Krishna has a plan, right? So I think I see what Rich was kind of getting at. It was like, is everything already predestined? And if so, does it make a difference if we do anything or not? And I would say that God has plans, but within those plans, there's a lot of flexibility. Who will play what role, and every individual can prosper or can suffer depending on the choices they make within that much broader plan, right? And then when you shrink it down to something like far more specific, like, just to be clear, Raghunath is there's just some challenges to maintain the Super Soul Farm. So what exactly happens, we don't know. But here's the thing, right? You're approaching it with a certain level of faith, and you say, you know what, I I I have the freedom and the ability to make choices to try to operate for the pleasure of God and in service of people, right? And so in doing that, I feel that it'll be best for me to do what I can to maintain this project. If I get some indication that that's really not meant to be, right? Like if I give it my best effort and it seems like my best efforts won't be enough, and maybe I would have to do something risky or something that might hurt
Adharmic.
other people
Yeah.
or something, then I accept, okay, I thought I understood his plan, perhaps I didn't. Let me see what indications he's sending through how the events unfold, how what messages am I hearing from other thoughtful people. I'm looking, I want to hear that voice, I want to hear that plan, and I'm surrendered to it, whatever it might be. If it means keeping this place, I'm ready to work hard to keep it. If it means letting it go, I'm ready to let it go. I'm not going to operate according to my attachments. I'm going to try to settle my mind, settle my desires, and hear what is the God's plan. That's how I understand.
And then it becomes quite magical.
Yeah,
And
living
you
like
th-
that is magical.
and you start to see like, wow, this is better than my plan. And I will say with the
Right,
farm,
that's a great
Christuba,
point.
I will say with the farm, it has been like a magical every season of me having this farm, so to speak. There's been like one, like it's like stepping off a cliff and you have no idea where that next foot is going, and it's always worked out so far. And there's always been great transformation in everybody who's like driven over the bridge and been part of the property and been part of the experience, from the Sable weekends to the, you know, to to some type of wisdom of the sages retreats to teacher trainings. It's had a
Yeah,
positive effect and touched our lives in a lot of ways. But sometimes Krishna wants you to say, you know what, zip that up, and there's a new plan for you, and we have to be
right.
just sort of ready to go.
Ready to hear that voice. If I can let go of my attachments and be transparent, I can flow with that. Otherwise, I'm fighting against it all the time, and life is just frustrating.
And I can't. I will say, in my situation, and if you're experiencing some forks in the roads as well, there's got to be not just leaving it on your own intelligence. People say, "Well, I'll figure it out. I've got deep intuition." Careful with that, because we have a concept, but it's generally can easily be polluted by our attachments, our desires, our anxiety, or some fear about something. Well, I need to stay here because my kids have to be here, and the kids need a stable place. There's a bigger plan, and so with me, I've been Kastuba as a person constantly. I'm in contact with gurus and teachers. Here's what I'm going through. This is where I'm at. And then I remember the day I got to this point, and I went to Satchidananda Swami. And I just said, I just don't know. I'm at a fork, but I will say, Maharaj, I'm ready to do whatever Krishna wants.
Right.
And I think from that moment of me just relinquishing that, there's been definitive messages of how we should go about things.
Mm.
But you got to get to that point where I give up. It's all you. And I think this is the reoccurring theme of the Bhagavatam, the book we study, is the devotees come in contact with massive forks in the road, and they consult their friends and their family and their teachers, and they just throw their hands up and they trust. And by the way, and again, throwing your hands up doesn't mean you give up working. You accept the things you cannot change, and you're courageous to change the things that you can. And that's also the magic mantra within these crossroads in life.
Say that one again.
Accept the things I cannot change, and give me the courage to change those things I can when we come to these intersections in life.
Right. Okay, I think that's great. Yeah, I think and when we say something like this, in other words, we a part of our faith is that within the heart of every living being, there's the Paramatma, right? The Krishna within the heart, conscious of our thoughts, conscious of our desires, conscious of our actions, the options that we take, and the choices that we've made, and ready to kind of direct the wanderings of living entities based on those. So let's say that Raghunath's project, Super Soul, is a way that thousands of people's lives could be touched in a positive way. It means Krishna wants to touch those lives, right? Like based on the soul turning to God within the heart and saying, I want something more. Let's say there's thousands of people that have that feeling. One way or another, Paramatma will arrange that they get some contact to pursue that. Now, that could be Raghunath at Super Soul, right? That could be the way that plan is carried out. One way or another, that plan will be carried out. We have the opportunity to be part of that plan, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean like everything's predestined, but there's a certain element of predestination, and there's a certain element of flexibility, and we have our choice of how we plan on entering that.
It's going to be sunny today. We have the opportunity to step into the sunlight, or we can stay in the shade. It's our choice, but the sun's out, and to be part of Krishna's plan and be in the flow of Krishna's, I tell you, it removes a lot of the anxiety of trying to be the controller.
Well,
which is a lot of our go on.
It's a principle. You become happier when you surrender, and you become frustrated when you don't.
Oh yeah.
When you're fighting against that plan, it's not necessarily easy to interpret that. That's where introspection is involved. That's where opening up one's heart and one's mind to other people that you respect, that are deeply spiritual. You search for that. You make it your mission to try to be more and more in tune with that, and then you try to live in harmony with that. That's a lot of what it means to be, like a deep spiritual person.
In perfect harmony. I don't
think this is part of God's plan that you sing this song right now.
It's the song I sing. Is that a regular song, or is that just an advertisement for Coca-Cola?
I think it was just an advertisement for Coca-Cola.
No, I think it was an actual song. One of our.
I think they might have made the song after the commercial.
It's the real thing. Okay. All right.
But okay. One more question.
Yeah.
We got 6 minutes. Okay. This one's for you, Ragana.
Okay.
This is coming from Chris Earnhardt. Earnhardt. How do you get the D in there? Earnhardt. Hey, Raghunath. Sorry to bother you.
No bother.
Okay. But I've been trying to work on my spiritual self, and your podcast is great. What I find myself dealing with is that I'm a guitarist and have been in bands my whole life. Currently in a band called Skinny Powers.
Skinny Powers. We can
Skinny Powers from.
We can come up with a better name than that.
I don't think he's asking for a name right now.
Oh, okay. So I can help.
We have some music out and we do some good shows, but the envious part of me sees other bands we work with getting bigger and growing, and we aren't, but I know that we are good. I guess my question is this. Sucks when that happens, doesn't it, Ragana?
Yeah.
I guess my question is this. How does one deal with these feelings of comparison to others and the feeling that I have failed in some way? I'm really trying to grow spiritually, and this is a thing I keep running into on my path. Any thoughts would be appreciated, and thank you for all that you do and share. Be well. Yeah, this is interesting because whether you're in a band or not, right?
Whatever your workplace is.
Whatever your desires are, your aspirations are.
There's the young guy coming up from behind. He's just out of university, and he's going to take your position. Yeah, there's the young, cute girl. There's a new secretary or the new CEO, and everyone loves her, and she makes everyone laugh, and she's sharp.
Look how Raghunath made that politically correct. I saw you do that little U-turn.
You heard my
smooth.
There?
That was smooth.
Secretary, no. Okay. She's not the secretary. She's the CEO.
Okay, that's right. It went from right down there and way to the top. Cleaned it up there. Good.
I almost got canceled there on the message board there.
That's right.
Oh,
okay.
God.
So what's the answer?
So the answer is you've come to the right place. Take a seat at the table. This is what we're all doing here. The material world is in a pinball machine. It's a ball bouncing back and forth between, I got one up on you. Oh, you got one up on me. Oh, now I'm down too. That's the whole world. It's not the music scene. It's every scene. It's the 8th grade. Who's cool? Who's hot? Who's strong? Who's the captain of the football team? Who's the star this? And who's the burnout druggy kid? It's like everyone is vying for some one-upmanship in the material world, and we're developing envy and hate and power struggles, and it's horrible. It's like a pack of dogs, vying for the alpha dog, and it's exhausting because you will rise to the top and then you'll drop back down. Then I had years of my life where I was the total uncool. Let's pick on this loser. Then I became really cool. And then it just switches back and forth, oftentimes out of our hands. We tend to
You're zooming out. I could tell what's going on. You're zooming out here.
Yeah. Now I remember, now the music scene I can definitively relate to, because in the 90s, it was like a really weird thing happening in the music scene. All our peers
were selling out.
Whatever you want to call it. I was trying to sell out myself. You know what I mean? We were all trying to sell out. We were all like, did our own bands. We all had like 30,000 followers, 50,000, sold 50,000 records. But now all the fans of those bands were getting jobs at major record labels.
Oh, I see.
And all of our bands post-hardcore started getting signed.
Oh, so I get it.
Same record labels that we grew up listening to Kiss, like Casablanca, Columbia Records, A&M or EMI.
So in other words, your generation grew up and got in the positions of power, and they were familiar with you. So
they were
you
familiar,
had openings.
and now we were getting courted, and all our friends' bands were getting courted by major record labels, and they want to meet with us. They want to give you a big advance. And then you're wondering, like, well, why is that band getting it? Why is it happening to that band? And now you're in Vegas with big chips. It's not just like the local band across the street. They had 10 people at the show. We only had 3 people. Now you're talking about, $1 million deals, $500,000 deals. And you're like a musician who never had any money. It's like, what? And then and you've been working at it. You're from the hardcore scene. You've got street cred. Then there are these 3 idiots from New Jersey who came together. No one's ever heard of them. And they got a massive record deal. And you're like, what?
Which idiots from New Jersey?
And sometimes we're 3 but
who are you talking about?
It becomes, I tell you, if you get into that pinball machine, it is incredibly painful because it seems like I've done everything right. I've got street credit. I wrote good songs. The timing is perfect.
Made our bones just touring and all that.
Yeah, we did it. We put in time, and then out of nowhere, these guys do a record, and they get a #1 song that's an MTV buzz clip. And if you really don't understand that there is a plan here, and that we're operating in a world of karma. The music scene, I'm glad he's writing this as a music scene, because if you're like a doctor, and I get it, there's some like really star doctors out there who have all these big clients and stuff like that. But for the most part, if like you're in a doctor profession, oftentimes it's not like, I want to be a rock star doctor. It's like, I want to gradually progress my, career and build out my career and, retire. It's like it's a general curve. Whereas the music or acting, you can go from like, I'm a nobody to I'm a celebrity, and the curve is like straight up
and then right back.
And then right back down, of course. And so it's filled with lots of anxiety, lots of struggle, lots of people.
Okay, Ragana,
that's not fair.
So what's the answer? How are you going to help this person?
The answer is you got to trust. You got to do your work in a way that you feel like I'm giving back to community. I'm giving back to culture. I'm doing this for a higher purpose. And therefore, the higher purpose then I become owned by the higher purpose, personified. God's got a plan for me. And part of that plan is my success or apparent failure. There is no actual failure because I'm doing it for a higher purpose. There's no metric of dollar sign that it's going to make me fulfilled.
That's the Jatayu principle right there, Ragana.
Yeah, like I'm going to die. Jatayu said, I'm going to die, but I will die
lost the fight.
Fighting for my service here, fighting for my cause.
And he won. Even though he lost, he won.
Yeah, so Chris, you have to get to this point of my band has something to contribute here, and I'm gonna do it in such a way that the offering is the win.
Right.
Nothing else. Not the record deal. Not how many people are at the show. There could be one person at the show, and you can affect that person on such a deep, deep way. Whereas you can have millions of people at the show. If you're not on a spiritual path and you have nothing actually to contribute except just like making them bang their head for a few minutes and you don't really care, you're in it for the money or you're in it for then you'll get that. You'll win that fame perhaps, but you may not affect the people. When you start to radically change yourself, then your presence alone affects people around you. Get into it for the mission and let the mission, the service mission be the win. And then whether you have one person or millions of people, you've already won.
You know, Raghunath, you're speaking like Krishna here. Bhagavad Gita 2:48. Yoga sta kudukarmani sangam tyaktya dhananjaya sidya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchate. Perform your duty equipoised, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. There you go. I think that's it for today, Raghunath.
Beautiful. All right, that was great. That was a great way to I love Q&A day, and I'll be back tomorrow for a very, very interesting show that we don't even know what's going on yet, but when you see it, you're going to love it. Oh, wow, look, Zoomers can drop a heart. Kylie Brown dropped a heart for us.
Dropped a heart.
You're the only one that loves us, Kylie. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us every day. We are back in action here. Next Monday, we're back at 6 a.m. and tomorrow is Sunday. Don't you understand, child?
Tomorrow's 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
Tarun. He's learning shlokas.
He's got that new haircut. He's rocking that thing.
He's a good-looking kid. I wasn't as good-looking as a child. I will say that.
All right.
And I'm okay with that. You want your kids to be better. I get that.
You didn't have that cool haircut. That's haircut 100 style haircut.
I didn't have good hair. All right, people. Thank you. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. We're going to keep this magic flowing today. Good way to start your day. I got to get my steps in today. Got to chant some japa. Got to worship my deity. I've been up all morning. I haven't done any of that stuff yet. We're having breakfast, and then I got to drive Sachi to Newark. I'm going to get to talk on the phone.